where the news comes to talk. It's the Roundtable. Round 1 at 7:45. Round 2 at 8:45. Weekday mornings on Moore in the Morning.
On Round 1 today, James Laidlaw is here, People's Voice Award winner and the man behind the company In-Home Golf. Christy Blatchford from the National Post. Jerry Agar is here from the Jerry Agar Show. David Dole is creator and host of therationalnational.com, which of course is a YouTube channel, if I'm not... Okay.
That's right.
And we've added you to our team here at News Talk 1010,
That's right.
so we're very excited.
Sundays at 9 p.m. It's
Sundays at 9 p.m.
A rational look at news, politics, and culture.
Okay. Oh, and incidentally...
I thought that's what happened at 9 o'clock every morning.
Incidentally, while we're banging the drum, Desmond Cole was selected as Toronto's best activist in the Toronto Now magazine poll that came out yesterday.
Nice.
Wherein Now basically asks themselves and their staff the guys they like the best.
Well, no, it's
I'm
online.
Just saying.
It's online polling, and we know how reliable that is.
Essentially the same thing. Yeah.
All right. Well, he's a popular figure. The Sherman family investigators have handed over an earring that was found not even by them, but by a media crew outside of the home, and then held by the family investigators. Also, a vacuum cleaner bag full of stuff that was vacuumed up off the floor of the pool. Christy, I'll start with you. You followed your share of police investigations and ultimate homicide prosecutions. This is some weird stuff.
Yeah, the whole thing is weird. I mean, let us be clear. It seems the private investigative team handed this stuff over only when Toronto police threatened them with getting a judicial warrant to have them do so. You'll recall, a week ago or so, the private team headed by lawyer Brian Greenspan blasted the police, said they had all this evidence and they were ready to hand it over, but hadn't handed it over because of some problem in the sort of bureaucracy at Toronto Police. So, I mean, will any of it turn out to be useful? Is any of it useful? That's way down the road. But the notion, I mean, it's a really good story Kevin Donovan has today. But he describes the relationship as being, strained and fractured between the investigative team and the actual police. And that's because there's no proper role for a private investigative team in a homicide investigation. There just isn't, despite their nonsense last week about, a private-public partnership. Baby, that don't happen in murder.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that. What are we missing here? We know that it's a really high-profile case. So does that allow the other investigators to interfere with an investigation? If I was the police, I would have been on them immediately saying, you're interfering. Is that not a crime? What they're doing is withholding evidence?
But there's two steps to this. It's interesting. The first is that, yes, why are they withholding evidence that could help the investigation? But they're withholding evidence that the original investigation didn't find.
Well, you're assuming it's evidence. The claim at the press conference was that the private forensic guys had gone in and vacuumed up a bag of potential evidence. The police had the house, as I recall, for 6 weeks. You can be sure that the forensic technicians for the Toronto police got the evidence they believed would have potential relevance. So maybe they didn't vacuum up the bag of stuff that the private guys think. I don't know. Maybe it's going to be valuable. Maybe it's wonderful that there's this second team. But the truth is, only the very super rich would be able to pay for a 7-person team plus a high-priced lawyer to run a parallel investigation. And it's not really a parallel investigation because they don't have access to some of the things the police do. They can't go in and demand that you submit to an interview, for instance. They have no power that way. They can't they don't have the powers of the police. And they're suggesting, though, that they should have access to all the police information in this public-private partnership. It's preposterous.
I read a lot of murder mystery-type books, and I watch those kinds of television shows, and yet I find it just kind of trite at this point whenever the brilliant private detective comes in at the last minute and goes into the room and within about 20 seconds finds something that the police never noticed. It's not believable.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
Thank you.
The Monk debate takes place tonight, and it's David Frum, an old friend of the show, who will be taking on Steve Bannon, the guy who's largely responsible for landing Donald Trump in the White House and is now creating all kinds of political mischief around the world. Somebody tweeted out yesterday, got contacted by two people who have tickets to the Monk debate. They were going to boycott, but have now decided to go inside and boo while Bannon speaks. I am sure there are more people. Spread the word. Maybe we'll start with Mr. Dole, but I was told by the folks at the debates that they're now going to be doing bag searches. There won't be a cloakroom at this event, so they're obviously taking things pretty seriously.
Let me just start with this whole debate is ridiculous. So it's supposed to be about populism, but you have a white nationalist versus a neocon, David Frum, instrumental in the Iraq War. This debate is really about the future.
Oh, is he on the front lines? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
This debate is really about the future of the Conservative Party. It's not about populism. Now, when it comes to the protesting, I think that so I support what the protesters' ideas are here. The issue is it really brings more attention to Steve Bannon and David Frum than I think that they would otherwise have. So I don't think they're ultimately going to get the result that they want. That said, I mean, I support their freedom to speak and have this debate, but I also support the freedom of the protesters to protest this debate as well.
But if they're going to go inside the event and disturb the event, do they see the irony in what they're doing? I guess that's a no.
That would be a no. And I mean, David, I think your YouTube channel has something to do with rational and civil discussions, right? In the political world.
That's correct.
Booing somebody or, interrupting them as they speak is neither rational nor civil.
Let me be, So I don't think that protesting inside the event is really going to accomplish anything. I think it's really going to turn people against the protesters and against the entire idea of protesting them. Protesting outside the event, go right ahead. But at the same time, I think it'll bring attention that otherwise would not be there at this event, and I don't think it's going to get the result that the protesters necessarily want.
I also think not you, but the whole discussion around this debate is diminishing to David Frum. He may well be a neocon, but he is an intelligent, well-read, really interesting man, and I think to sort of dismiss him as, sort of just barely a couple of steps removed from Steve Bannon on the sort of conservative spectrum doesn't do him justice. He's much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. They definitely have different views here. I mean, in this debate, I would support David Frum, but that said, I would never support David Frum in any other situation other than this debate.
Okay,
and I
think it's always worth reminding David Frum and others that some of us were right about the Gulf War the first time. Residents at 650
And you
Parliament,
never fail to remind them.
Well,
it's so interesting.
Because they walked us into a war, and
they
at the
didn't
time,
walk. The government started.
Who was in the White House, the Oval Office when it happened?
And who was giving them support? Hillary Clinton, Al Gore, all kinds of people.
Like I said, some of us were right, including Jean Chrétien.
Yes.
Well, that doesn't mean that it was the careless action of one individual, which is sort of what was intimated in what you said.
No, that's not what I was intimating at all. I didn't even say it. Residents of 650 Parliament are upset because they're currently staying in hotels or with friends or in alternative rentals, and now, if they want to hold on to their apartments, they're being asked to pay rent again. James, does it seem fair to have to pay rent on an apartment you're not in?
No, I can't imagine how they could legally pull this off at all. Are their apartments actually livable? Are they back in livable condition and they haven't moved back in yet? Is there a timeline for them to move back in? I don't know how they can pull this off.
Well, who's paying for the hotel?
I think that is the city.
Okay, well, why is the city paying for it, first of all? The way I think it ought to work is that the apartment owners, the landlords, should be paying for accommodation for their now displaced residents, and that would also legitimize collecting the rent because, after all, you got to contribute your share of having a place to live. If it costs more to put you in a hotel, that's going to be the landlord's problem.
Right, but if the landlord's not providing them a service, then why would they be paying for it?
Well, why is the city paying for it?
That's a different question. I agree with you, but
yeah.
I think they're all good questions.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why we're putting a reporter on it. Winnipeg Mother has been honored as the Silver Cross Mother. This is always every year. One mother of a dead soldier lays a wreath at the National Cenotaph. And Christy, this will be the first year that the soldier didn't die in combat, came home from combat and took his own life.
Yeah, it's a very tragic story. For a long time, apparently, the military stalled on giving this family the information they had about their son's death. The whole thing is sad. And I guess it's a great, tremendous progressive step forward that she should now be the Silver Cross mom. I imagine that this is not without controversy in the military itself. I mean, it is. It's a difficult line to walk, is somebody who kills himself sometime after his participation in a war, is that the same kind of death as somebody who dies in the front lines in the middle of the combat? I don't know. These are questions for better people than me.
I want to look at the PTSD aspect of this, because I think this is a huge issue that we aren't dealing with properly, and there are potential solutions out there. I know there are studies looking into psychedelic medicines like MDMA, like psilocybin mushrooms, that have helped people that have PTSD and help them out of it. So I think we need to look at new solutions for this.
And finally, the Toronto Christmas Market. It'll open on the 15th. The tree is going up as we speak. I don't know if everybody's seen it. Jerry, I think it's the kind of place every family, every couple should go at least once in the Christmas season. I think it's one of the greatest additions to this city in the last little while.
Yep, we're done with Halloween, so bring it on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yep.
I agree. Once Halloween is over, put the tree up, get on with Christmas.
And relight those Christmas lights on your house you never took down in the first place.
That's right.
We got to call it there. Thank you all for lively debate. That's Free for All Round 1.